No, I said, they got a new כן, בדיוק. כתוב בכל נראה הפוסק משלי, וכל עצם מקום אחד תאמת, רוח המשימה שלהם. לא. עכשיו מתסת לשמוע, איזה יצונות. Where is it? What's his name? Baruch. He's here? Good. So we're going to do now the Ramban inside.
I'm here.
The Ramban yesterday. We're in the middle of the Ramban, towards the end. There's just 3 lines before the end of the Ramban on top of the page.
Yes, I can't hear you right now. No, it's not working.
Tafshilin is not, it doesn't exist. What did Rabbeinu Tam said? Rabbeinu Tam is the opinion of Afia and bishul are 2 different things. So therefore, when I do Eruv Tafshil, I still need to do Eruv Afia. And if I do Eruv Afia of baking, I still need to do Eruv Tafshil of cooking.
Where's the Ramban?
Like we see that cooking and baking by bishul akum and pat akum are 2 different zayos. Same way pat akum and bishul akum are 2 different things, right? Same thing is by eruv tafshilin and afiyas tafshilin is 2 different things. Eruv tafshilin and eruv of afiyas is all the same. I mean, it's 2 different things, and I need 2 things. When I want to do an eruv tafshilin, I have to do for the tafshilin, and I have to do it for the afiyah. That's a svora Rabbeinu Tam. Comes the Ramban says his words are einon. What's the word einan? Ein, nothing. Ein means enly. I don't have. Not true. It says already be clarified for us from the Yerushalmi Tosefta. She'ein eruv tafshilin tzrichim pat ela tafshil. Eruv tafshilin doesn't need a bread, needs only a cooked food. V'chen das Rabbeinu Agodol Zal, also the Rif. The Rif holds the same thing, not like Rabbeinu Tam. That when I do Eruv tafshilin, there's enough tafshilin. I don't need bread. I don't need baking. But the Rabbeinu Tam brought a raya. What do we do with a raya? The raya is, why was the havamina by shlokois? There's no raisa, and we didn't have such havamina by bread. Must be bread and shlokois, 2 different things. He says no. Why the Gemara asks shlokois? What's the source? And he asked this question by bread. Must be. Does the same? That was the raya of Rabbeinu Tam. Comes the Raman and says no. Mishum the pat pshitale, the time of the chasms. It's because bread is simple, that the reason Allah to eat bread of goyim because it's marriage. Opposite than Toysvis. Aval shlokois, opposite than Toys Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam held that shlokois is an early gzeira and is much more severe. Bread is later gzeira, less severe. And bread and cooking are the same, right? The same. Really, when I talk about cooking, bread is part of cooking. Afiyah is part of bishul. Tafshilin also by the gzeira should be together. The only reason why they didn't put it together is because there's a less of a svor to goizer. But the Ramban holds opposite. That bread is simple, pshitale, time of the chasms. By bread is more simple, the reason of marriage. About shloko is for shchiach chasms they do. By cooked food, it's not so common, the marriage. Kasal kedaiter di surai doraisa, the avim in the words that shloko is doraisa. Velo mishum gzeira, not because decree. And Havamin is only by Shlokois, because bread, we know clearly the reason is Chassos. Opposite of Toises. You follow that, Jonathan? Opposite of Toises. The skin and the Gemara concludes the Minerabonon Mishum Chassos Kevan the Pan. It's only with the Rabbonon by Shlokois because of marriage, like the reason of bread. But really, why the Gemara didn't ask this question, what's the source of bread? Because everybody knew the source of bread is Chassos, is marriage. Only by Shlokos we're not such a simple svor of marriage. And the Gemara said, no, maybe it's the rice. The Gemara includes the Chassos like bread. But Adarabah, bread is more of a svor of Chassos, because bread is more what's your name? El Kazov. What's your first name? Baruch. Like he told me yesterday, bread is something you live on, and it's constant. And who does it? Women. Who bake breads? Women. Women break bread, and it's common. So therefore, it's more of a svor of chassos. So that's why bread, we knew the svor. Shlokosh, we didn't know the svor. So although there is praise for the fish, for the chef, not praise, whatever it's called, what was it? Compliment to the chef. It's true, but it's not something that people live on it. It's not something that women do. Who's the best chef, Rabbi Yosef? Men or women? Ask Rabbi Yosef Ponak. He's sleeping on me. Who's the best chef?
No, are the best.
Men are the best chef. So chef is men, but bread is women. So since bread is women and people don't live on it, the Vaday, the time of Pat is Mishum Chassos. We didn't know the svor of compliment to the chef, this good svor or not. Right. But it starts with a relation of feeling. You connect to the father, you go to the son, to the daughter. So by bread, you connect to the person who cooks, but who bakes bread? That's not true. Let's say there's a beautiful girl that makes a dough, and she sells you the bread. And you go to buy to your neighbor, Goisha shik's a neighbor, you go and buy every day, and she looks at you, you look at her, you talk to you, talk to more words, who knows what you want to, whatever the story is. There's a problem, you have a problem. So bread is something that people live on, it's stable, and also bread, as somebody should say, bread is a fias. I know that it's Machloikis Rabbeinu Tam and the Ramban. According to Rabbeinu Tam, is opposite svor. So we have a Machloikis and opposite svoras. Rabbeinu Tam holds that compliment for the chef is the main svara, and therefore Shlokos is a Gzeri Kadmonis, is simple. That I have him knows as Doraisa, but the Gzeri Kadmonis, even if the Rabbon Chazos, the Gzeri is more simple. Bread, we didn't think is part of it, because bread is simple. Although bread women does it, but it's simple, and you cannot make gzera on it. People live on it, so therefore it's a svara not to make. It's only later years that make gzera. This is Rabbeinu Tam, and Rabban holds opposite svara. That Adarabah, bread is a ma'aseh noshim, bread is a bake of women, bread is something that people live on. So it's constant, it's todir, it's all the time. So the connection is much stronger. So the Adarabah, bread was simple in Tam Chassos. Adarabah, to say a svor of bishul of cooked food, to say it is through that, which is not so common, it's not constant. It's not only avodas noshim. To say that will make a gzera on that, will bring marriage. That we need that like Moses as minolon. Was so simple. Yes, it's like bread. Constant in women. So therefore, you're right. And that was much more simple for the Gemara. The Gemara didn't speak about it, not because it's a lay like Zero, because there we knew Vada it's also. Only Shlokas was question, which we have opposite svaras here. We have Rabbeinu Tam against Ramban, concludes the Ramban, by Yerushalmi Mefoirosh. There's a clear Yerushalmi, Upat Lami Tashri Goimu. Yerushalmi is bread is not part of cooking of Goyim. Which means the Gemara Yerushalmi understands that baking, cooking is one thing, and therefore Shaloi Kediv Rabbeinu Tam, that he wants to say bread and cook are two different things, two different gzeras, and the gzera of Shlok is much earlier, etc. Adarabah, bread and cooking is the same. And bread was simple. wasn't simple, and the Avamina was that maybe shlokas is the rice and maskona is like bread, but really bread is the most simple one.
They're baking bread with the food at the same time.
No, it means in a category of baking and a category of cooking is the same. It's the same category. By Yeruv Tafshil. What? Only what? Yes. The Yerushalmi is on its own. Yerushalmi holds that bread and cooking, baking and cooking is one thing. By bishul akum, bread and bishul is the same. So yes, one says, what's enough kibin if it's the same or not? So I said, enough kibin eruv tafshili. If it's the same, so eruv tafshili should work for eruv hafiyah. Another same shouldn't work. What's enough kibin in bishul akum if it's the same or not? Maybe it has the same rules, the same details. If it's one gzeira, the Ramban didn't say it's one gzeira. It says pot is simple, bread wasn't simple. I mean, bread was simple, cooking wasn't simple until we prove that it's the same like pot. But it's the same. Once the Gemara conclude that shloka is the same of pot, so he brings Yerushalmi that is the same. What does it mean? It's one gzeira? So big kasha. If it's one gzeira and bread is canceled, why cooking is not canceled? You have to give a svara to it. And who asked this question? You showed me yesterday, the Miri, right? The Miri asked this question. And what's the answer? Also, although it's one thing, Almo, Betalmud Amarov means Yerushalmi. Ikshu פרלמנט של הגויים אלמו שבכלל בישולו, מתוך כך תרצו רבים שתחילו גוזרו על השלוקויס ולא כלו בהם מספת. He says if it's one thing like the Ramban, so then he has to come back to like Rabbeinu Tam, that really shlokos is the first one, and then he can include the bread in it. Because people cannot handle it. It's a great need. There's too much connection, but people need to live on it. So it's Avamina that people live on it. Big need, make exer. Maskon is big kiyuvadas. So they make exer on it. And when they permit bread, the Isur of Shlokos stayed. That's one svara. Or the svara of the Ramban, he says maybe they made a decree on bread because there's big kiyuvadas, it's constant. Even though it's a big need, but it's a constant. And afterwards they made shlokos. So when they knock out bread, shloka still stays. So shloka still stays because it was first or because later. Either way, seems to be is like two gzeiros. So what's the point of saying the Yerushalmi is one gzeira when he's saying two? The answer is in the category of the gzeira of bishul. Really, if it wasn't that you can need to live on it, you live on bread. When they made a gzeira and cook, also bread should be part of that. Because there's one category. It's only because bread is such a great need, people live on it, so they didn't think to make a gzeira on it, although it's the same category, should be part of it. But they had a menia, they have something to prevent them to put part of the gzeira, even though it's the same category, because it's tzorcha merubah. Even though it's kiru vadas merubah, more than shlokos, but this tzorcha merubah is a great need. That's why they wanted to knock it out. That's one way to answer it. Or opposite. They made the gzeira first on bread because it's a great kiru vadas. Even though it's tzorcha merubah, but it's a great kiru vadas. And it's chatnus of more common chasnus. And shlokos came later on. So although shlokos is part of bread, cooking is part of baking, and baking part of cooking. So what is the last answer of the meeting? It says they made the gzeira first on bread, because there's a great kiyum adas, and shloka is very, very big, and shloka is less kiyum adas. So which means basically really in a category that are the same. Baking and cooking are the same category. And really when he made the gzeira on cooking should be also bread. When he made the gzeira on bread, whatever is first, whatever it is should really both on really on both, mitzad the category. And that's why by Eruv Tafshilin is the same. But there's a side problem that shlokas is less common and bread are much more common. But in the contrary, shloko is less a need and bread is more of a need. So since they're different, when they made the gzeira on bread or on shlokas first, whatever you want to say, tupshat, the other species was not included because it's not the same in the level of chasnas. So which means, what? No, he's explaining it.
So it sounds like the Rambam says.
The Ramban, you mean?
Ramban will
Yeah, when no,
if he says it's one and the same thing, right?
he concludes that it's one thing, yet he holds that when they made the decree originally, then they made the decree first on bread, and then on shlokas, and wine bread was much more common. That's his fault first. That's his svara. That's what he says. Mishum de pat pshitale, because a greater time, there's a greater reason of chasnas because it's more common. So it's much more greater kiruv hadas. Although people would need it, they need to live on it, so it's hard to oiser it. But mitzad the chasnus, marriage, the connection is much stronger. And shlokas is less. So although it's one category, but it was that smaller, this is more common, this less, that made Chazal not to put it together, even though it's the same category. So what does he gain by saying it's one category not? The Mishnah says bread, one thing, and shloka, second thing. No, that's not true. No, bread says the Mishnah. Pat v'shemen. Look in the Mishnah. Sure, it says pat is bread. What? No. The Meiri starts with the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says that bread and cooked food are the same. מכל מקום בתלמיד המערב איקשו פתלה מתבשול לגוימו, almo שבכלל bishul, bread and afion is part of bishul. So it will be one gzeira. I'm reading the Emir, you don't have it, he has it. ומתוך כך תרצו רבים שתחילה גוזרו על השלוקויס, ולא יקולו בהם מספר מן שצורכו מרובה. He has to give a reason, although it's one category, but they had a fallacy that they had a svara not included because there's a great need, or opposite, bread was the main gzeira, and shlokas it's less of a need of people, it's less common. So because of that external svara of chasnus and less of chasnus, more of chasnus, they didn't put it together, although normally all of a shas is one category. What do we gain by that? Maybe I think what we gain is that if the same dinim, that if it's the same categories, the only question was to include, not included. Once they included, or once they knock it out, or once they include as the same dinim. For example, ta'aroives, liois, all those things should exist by both. If one has it, the other one has it. Another one doesn't have it, the other one doesn't have it. It means it's the same. That's all dinim, right? Otherwise, what's enough kamina? There's one category, but lemaise, one is less of a svara, less of a svara. One is more, one is less of a svara. Right? So because of that, people can live. But what's more of a chasnus? Bread. Just against the more of a chasnus bread, people cannot live without it. So it's a svara lekan or lekan. So it's not the same category of shlokos, although normally the same category. But here, because of external reason of chasnus, we didn't include it and we included it. Taisa says ta'aroiv doesn't agree by bread, and they permitted bread. So why you should not permit shlokos? The answer, although they're the same category elsewhere, but since here one has less of a chasnus, one's more. So and one, although bread has more of a chasnus, but has more of a need to live. So therefore, when they cancel bread, they didn't cancel shlokos. And when they did both have the same dinim. And if taroivis and blius exist, by one exists also by the other. If you hold that by shlokos there is a din of taroivis and also din of blia, also by bread. Those holds not true. Those are holds that we don't only talk about svor Chaim. Talk about svoras. But those are holds that really cooking and baking are two different things. And the cooking was much earlier decree, and therefore bread was permitted, and even those who prohibited of a different dinim. No, but Rabbeinu Tam is of the opinion that the same category. So saying, what's enough kamina? If any of the Ramban holds the mice in the end, that really they're the same category, but they didn't put in the same time in the same gzeira, because different svaras. So what I hear, the same category. I said enough kamina. What Toisa says, Toisa holds on the two categories. Rabbeinu Tam the two categories. So he says by bread, taroiv and blius are permitted. They permitted bread, and even when they prohibited, or those that prohibit, taroiv and bli are permitted. But Rabban will hold that since they're the same time, just more of a chassos, less of a chassos, more you need to live when you live. So enough community will be that when they made the gzer on both, before they cancel it, they're the same dining. Okay. What do you want to say, Reb Chaim?
It's totally
In small, right? Good, I agree. True. Right. Bread is more of a constant in eating and in need. And the other end is a deficiency that bread is something people live on. They need it, and they cannot go without it. The other end is a woman's thing. Did you get for my brother? Did you give it to him? No, la ben adam הזה. כסף. בסדר, afterwards, go to him afterwards. You go to him. לא עכשיו, תן לו עכשיו. Good. זה סבור, כמה זה סבור. Good. בסדר, good. Ram. So I mean Rosh. Let's do the Rosh. Although the Rosh talks about sighting, but we're going to do the Rosh. Rosh Masechet Beitze Perek Beis. Rabbeinu Tam Oyoimer the Plukser Beisham Beisilel Avebish Ave Bebishul. Rabbeinu Tam said that the Machlois Beisham Beisilel. It is.
Where is it? On the papers?
The Rosh in the paper. It's the second paragraph. Rosh Masechet Shabbos Perek Beis. It's printed in the papers. Second paragraph. Rosh Masechet Shabbos Perek Beis. Rabbeinu Tam Oyoimer. Rabbeinu Tam used to say. The pluksa the Beisham Beisilel Ave Bebishul. The argument Beisham Beisilel is by cooking. The Beisham Beisabri Afilu Levashel Lekuda Tzorch Netafshilim. Even for cooking alone, you need 2 dishes. No, that's it. Beisilel Sabra, Beisilel Hol, the Levashel Saki Betafshilechon. To cook is enough one cook. You need 2 dishes or 1 cooked dish to do a Eruv Tafshilim. Also, the language of the Mishnah is mashma the loiskir or bishul. When you talk about cooking, the argument is 1 cooked food or 2 cooked food. Nobody talked about baking. But to bake, even admit the ba'inon part you want to bake on the basis of eruv, you must have also bread and eruv tafshilin. Eruv tafshilin and eruv pat. Bread. The kulo islu the Rabbi all the more than Rabbi the Omar and Oifim Elalem Ofui. Nobody bakes only on what's baked. When you started to bake, you finish the bake. But you don't bake on Yom Tov on the basis that you started to cook. Abai said only dish, but not bread. Letzoich bishul koma. for the need of cooking. Everything is part of cooking. You cook you roast the Pesach. If I do a Rev Tafshilin, can I? No, he says everything is part of bishul. When they do bishul, is also roasting. Also, I'm allowed to heat water. The word dish is not bread. Cooked tafshin is not pot, but tafshin includes many other things. That including roastings, including heating water. But the chiddush is avalafia, but by baking, la bichlal bishul is not part of bishul.
What does it mean it's not part of bishul?
Abaya said you can cook and not bake. Everything part of bishul. Cook bishul is also roasting.
Right.
Sliya bishul is also to heat hot water.
Right.
Roast making water from cold to lukewarm is also cooking. But baking la b'chal bishul not part of bishul.
Also not part of bishul.
So does Avamina. We see by us the Yerushalmi holds that baking and cooking is one thing. What do you mean? He wants to knock it out. He wants to kedash kechon the padve shlokos. I wish the exegos we see by the exego of bishul and akum and pat akum 2 different decrees. Why 2 different decrees? Because baking and cooking are 2 different things. 2 categories by eruv tafshilin. Like we see the 2 categories, 2 decrees by bishul akum. The pat mishmonos for dova kinisi b'Shabbos. The shlokos u'gzer kadmoinis. We see the 2 different things. Bread is one much later decree of Beisham Beisilel, the 18 things, and shlokos a much earlier gzeira. Kedemor perimamidi. The avesakar of doraisa. The havamina that shlokos is doraisa. Ademasa to concludes klas machta be'almo. That is really the rabbanon, but the having was doraisa. By bread we never have any doraisa. The shonasa double, which is bread, or you do a slakolim, but he knew it. The ach avya mehein, and if cooking food was part of baking bread of the 18 things, how you had a mistake to say that everybody knew Yitches Dovo. How was Avamina's Dorais is part of Yitches, much more later Xega. And not only that, that we missing part of the 18. Must be that the 18th thing goes on bread, and bread is on the baking, of cooking. Cooking is a separate thing. Okay. This is Rosh, like who? That bread, that cooking and baking are 2 different things. Like Rabbeinu Tam, they're 2 different things, 2 different sayings. Ramban hold is one saying. It's one category, just have different reasoning. What do you want to say?
That cooking and bread is a different thing to pay kasul noise to ego tamshin.
Because if they're the same category, so when I do eruv tafshilin, I started to cook. When I start to cook and baking is the same. So when I start to cook, I also start to bake, because baking and cook is one thing. What is eruv? Eruv, I started, I just finished. I'm allowed to finish, I'm allowed to start. So I start with cooking. Baking is part of cooking. He says no. Baking and cooking different things, like we see by gzeros of akum or bishul akum and padag on 2 different gzeros. Not because one is more shchiach and one is less shchiach. No, because baking and cooking are different gzeros. Ramban learns that it's more shchiach and less shchiach. Really the same, but they didn't put of it because one more shchiach, one less shchiach, one more v'svor. But Rabbeinu has different svor to 2 different boxes. Two different boxes, he made it. That's why two different gzeiras. And Adara Beshlok is much earlier gzeira. Now he says a svore. Why they didn't put it together? Although two boxes, why didn't do one gzeira? When they did the gzeira on bishul, why didn't it include bread? Although it's another category, why wouldn't include it? Because there's less of a shchiach. So that's why they made a decree. They didn't put it. So we have two reasons according to Rabbi Dan why they didn't put it together. Because it's a different box, and there's less shchiach. But according to the Ramban, is one box. The reason because less of shchiach and more shchiach. What's enough? Kamina, we said the whole morning. Kamina is taroives and blias. That's Toysa says. Let's continue on. When we call makom in any place, what? If we see that by cooking, bliois and blio bochama, if we see by cooking that bliot and taroives is also, and bread is the same, there's one gzeira, right? It's one thing. It's one category. So it's the same dinim. You can have separate dinim. But it's two different gzeiros, one much earlier, later, can be two different dinim. I'm saying so we'll see soon in the Ran. The Ran will go more into this. Umikol makom, and however, it started late. I want to go on to at least 10 more minutes. Umikol makom in any place, oitzov ad lokosh sharion. Oh, this is one of the things we had a big debate this last holiday. Everybody asked, why am I allowed to take fire from one candle to another candle? What? I want to cook on Yom Tov. Or Nefesh. That's I'm allowed, right? Or it's so taking out to the public domain, to Shusa Yoch, Shusa Rabim, Carmelis, and at local. Now, what happened if I don't want to cook for Yom Tov? I want to have fire to cook for Shabbos. But the Eut of Shin and Tafshin not on the fire. That was the kasha we had in the house. And the answer is as part of it. What? I know everybody's doing it. I want to know where's the permission. Although the Torah permits you to do a Nevesh for today, how are you allowed to prepare fire, not food for tomorrow? Fire for tomorrow, taking out things for tomorrow. The answer is as part of Eut of Shin. We won't know why. We're learning now along this understanding why. And the answer is when we call mokoim oitzov v'adloko, taking out things for tomorrow, from Yom Tov to Shabbos. V'adloko, lighting candles, fire for tomorrow, to cook for tomorrow. Shayon is permitted. Afal gav, even though the lovi bichlal pat. It's a big kasha. You want to say, you know why when I do tafshilin, bread is out because it's a different category. So why oitzov v'adloko is part of it? Everybody agrees that oitzov v'adloko is a different category. So if oitzov v'adloko is part of it, why? This is the question we had this. And we had my son-in-laws and all that came to my house on Yom Tov. We had a big debate about it. Look, Mishtabura, this and that. Good, but who's part of it? And what happened if I don't do? I want to light a candle, Yom Tov candle, Shabbos candle, Malad on Yom Tov. When Yom Tov ends, I want to light a candle for Shabbos. What? To bring light to the house. I want to have light in the room. So I take from one fire, I hit another fire, and I just want candles in the room. I'm allowed or I'm not allowed? Eruv Tafshilin permits it. But it's not part of cooking. You want to say baking is out because not part of. So why you mikol mokoim in any place, or itzovat loko, taking out to another domain, or cooking or lighting candles, sharion are permitted. Afal gav, even though the lavu bichlal pat, the tafshil, even though not part of bread and not part of cooking. So answering a little bit what you guys said. The Lord tzrichu rabono lebikar tikkun suda. The rabbis did not require Eruv Tafshilin only in the Ikar, in the main Tikkun of Suda. In Tikkun Suda, which is the main preparation, that you cannot do Achona unless you do Eruv Tafshilin. You have to finish, not to start. But anything which is not Ikar Tikkun Suda, the rabbis permitted without Eruv Tafshilin, or Eruv Tafshilin permits it. In the Ikar Tikkun Suda, they said only dishes, only cooking, not baking. Baking is not part of it, according to the Rosh and the Ramban. It's two different things. I mean, the Rabbeinu Tam, two different things. But something which is not Ikar Tikkun Suda, the rabbis didn't require Eruv Tafshilin, and you're allowed to prepare from one day to the other. To prepare from one day to the other, Torah says it's not kavod. It's not kavod that you prepare on Yom Tov for Shabbos. You should prepare before. Shabbat needs a preparation on its own before, not on Yom Tov. But that's only is the disgrace of Shabbos, disgrace of Yom Tov. It's only be'ikar tikkun suda. But in Oitzovat Loko is not a disgrace. So the rabbis did not petaking Eruv Tafshilin. Yes, what do you want to say? I'm not the same thing, right? No. In Eruv Tafshilin, baking is not included, and you need, if you want to bake, you have to make also an afiyah. Like Rabbeinu Tam, because afiyah is not part of bishul. There's a problem with it, so why Oitzor Vadloko Eruv Tafshilin permits? Definitely Oitzor Vadloko is less part of bishul than bread, than baking. The answer is no. Oitzor Vadloko is permitted because the rabbis didn't require B'chal Eruv Tafshilin on it. Because only an Ikar Tikkun Suda they metak, you need an Eruv to permit. But Oitzor Vadloko, you don't need Eruv Tafshilin for that, because not Ikar Tikkun Suda. It's not disgrace about.
Means that you both have a baked product and a cooked product, so both categories are going.
You need both. When you do a tafshilin, you need to have bread and cooked food. Correct.
And the question is, you said, oh, but now lighting is included in our tafshilin. I will ask now.
So let bread be included. Let bread. No, we only say Oitzor Vadloko as part because right. So the answer is Oitzor Vadloko is not part of bishul. Oitzor Vadloko, you don't need Eruv Tafshilin on it because it's not Ikar Tikkun Suda. The rabbis required Eruv only on Ikar Tikkun Suda, main fixing of the meal, only on the meal world. In the meal world, in the Sauda, what? Not like Rabbeinu, it's not like against Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam holds that baking and cooking different things, and when you do your Eruv, you have to put in it Tafshil and Afiyah. But we have a problem, Rabbeinu Tam. Why to light candles from Shabbos to Yom Tov, or why you allowed to take out things to prepare from Shabbos to Yom Tov? Oitzor, the Melocha of Oitzor. You know, I learned Shabbos, you know Oitzor. And Atloko, why those two things are permitted without an Eruv? Must be because they include an Eruv of Tafshilin. So how come Oitzor and Atloko are included in Tafshilin and bake food and Afiyah is not included in Tafshilin? The answer is not because it's included. Because Oitzor and Atloko is not, you don't need Bechlal Eruv on it. The rabbis only required Eruv only on Ikar Tikkun Suda. I know. So I'm going to show you. You look at Mishtabu and brings two options. It's part of what we had the big discussion this Yom Tov in my house. Mishtabu brings down two svaras. One is it's included. I remember the svara why it's included, or you don't need like the Ramban because it's not Ikar Tikkun Suda. So they didn't required Eruv on it. ועוד תניא לאל בברייסה. דחנניה בייסיל לא אמרי מניח אדם עירוב אחד ואויסו בכל צוקו. It's mashma, according to Chanyan and Libid Vesila, that you do it one Eruv and all you need means lichoiro bepashas. The word all you need means baking and cooking. It says no. a bishul v'atmonokoi, and cooking and atmona. You know what's atmona? Atmona is to cover hot food, to keep the heat. You cover it, insulating. Then we say you do all you need in cooking and insulating. Velo afia. Don't mistake in the word all you need means also baking, because baking and cooking, according to the Rosh and like Rabbeinu Tam, are two different things. So now we have another nafkamina. When I say baking and cooking are two different things, by Eruv Tafshil, not only I need to do both, there's also Arai Luka no Itzova ad Loko. Itzova ad Loko is no need, or no, Itzova ad Loko the same way bread is part of cooking, or Itzova ad Loko is also part of cooking. Two different words. What? That there he says Kol Tzoko is mashma even afia. The simplicity. It says no bishul natmono, but not afia. Verio yoimer. Time is in essence. Verio yoimer. He used to say, Masha medag de Rabbeinu Tam ipad v'shlokois. Rabbeinu Tam brought a raya. Rabbeinu Tam is in the world of Eruv Tavshilin. He brought a raya from our Gemara by bishul akum, that bread and cooked food are two different takonos. The ena fear bichlal bishul, that baking is not part of cooking. So we see that two different things. He says eino raya. Risa says it's not a proof. Why? Even if you want to say that bread and it's part of cooking, oitzihu is really the same category, but the rabbis took it out. It was in, not it wasn't in. It was in, but they had internal reason to take it out. Why? Most people, majority of the congregation, cannot handle not to eat bread. It's a basic need. It's a constant basic need. That's why I had a svara to exclude it. Although it's one category, it was a svara to exclude. That was a svara of the svara of the Ramban. Right? Afterwards, they added to preheat the bread. Tofu. Whatever you want to bake, you should bake. Is mashma that baking is not part of cooking. Lav divra koil is not according to everyone. But really, baking and cooking is one thing. According to the time Tosefta. One who makes a Eruv Tavshil in Erev Yom Tov, he bakes and he cooks on it. Says cooking and he says baking, cooking. You do on it. Mashma is the same. Matmin al Zrachamim, if you do atmon, you do isolating. Oy Devi also, he brought more. Rashoim b'nei Movoi lasot tafshiv lefod v'rashoim b'nei Movoi, the people of the alley, are permitted to make a dish and bake and cook on it. Ube'edye plig Rab Lozer Rabbi Yeshua b'Yerushalmi. It says, Katuv et asher tofu afu, whatever you bake, you bake. V'es asher bashelu bashelu, Rabbi Eliezer roifin alo ofui. Rabbi says you bake and you bake, whatever you bake, then you started to bake. You can finish to cook whatever you started to cook. Rabbi Yeshua Omer no. You bake and you cook on the cooked food, which means in the same category. Rabbi Yeshua learns the pasuk as asher tofu. The mechilti is mashma ofu. It's two different things now. Rabbi Yeshua learns the pasuk as asher bashel bashelu. As asher afu, although in the pasuk is mashma two different things, Rabbi Yeshua learns it different. The mechilti the tani Rabbi Yeshua it means one wants to bake. You should bake before. One wants to cook, should cook before. But doesn't mean that cooking. One wants to bake, say he bakes for himself. When he wants to cook, he cooks for himself. But doesn't mean in the preparation you need both. Only means you have to do both now. If you prepared what? One thing could be. The Kaimalon de Rab Lozer Shamuti, we know Rab Lozer is excommunicate. He's a student of. It was a shamuti. So why the Gemara didn't bring Rabbi Yoshua that holds that there's enough one for both? It's not because I was not like him. Because the Amoiroi explained the reason of Eruv. and the Tana brings it from here. The only one to bring what we learn from Psukim. The world akasan like Rabbeinu Tam. The course of the is a what? That you need to have both. You have to have bread and a dish when you do it with tafshilim. The course of the but Ri and the Ramban argue and the whole no, I don't need because bread and cooked food is the same in one category. So there's one category. Why to make two different xeras? Because that is a special internal reason why not to include it. Okay, I read it quick because my time is limited, but I want you to see the Ran. The Ran, he already makes it much more polarized because he goes to the reasoning, the timing, okay? And he brings enough communities. So what we learn now, it's the machlokas and lomdis. The Ran will show us that this machlokas is not stam and lomdis, it's not kamina la halacha. Okay? The Ran. We have to prepare the Ran for tomorrow. Read it inside, and Bezrat Hashem will go on. Rabbi Hanania ben Akash Shoimer. What's HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'zakis u'lefika? Here we have to measure the man of Chobetz Leman, Tikkun Torah Yadin. Adei Liskadei Shemei Rabo. Lo Modi Broki Rusei, V'yanika Rusei. Kai Echon Yurei Mechon, V'Kadavol Beis Yisroel. Ba Golo Bizman